Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on strategic academic program development. We will get started in about a minute and 30 seconds. We'll just give people a chance to arrive and get into the room, and then we'll get started. Welcome.
Actually, we've done this with a few of the other webinars, but in the chat, if you could let us know where you're, I was going to say calling from, but where you're located, that would be really great. We'd love to see how far is our reach. So just go ahead and plop it in the chat. I'm currently in New York. I'm about an hour north of New York City. Simon, where are you?
I am clear cross country. I am in sunny Southern California.
Cool. Well, looks like we have San Antonio, we have North Carolina, Texas. This is great. I love seeing where everyone is, where they're dialing in from. Oh, Utah. Great. Great. Excellent. Oh, we have a lot of the US represented, which is great.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining us today for our Strategic Academic Program Development from Idea to Impact webinar. Quick run through the agenda. We're going to do some welcomes and introductions. We're going to talk about a little bit about who we are, Six Red Marbles, talk about strategic program development and why it matters. We're going to walk you through a step-by-step framework we hope will be helpful, talk about implementation and rollout, talk about some common pitfalls to avoid, takeaways, resources, and then we'll get into a live Q&A at the end. We do have some surveys throughout the presentation today. We'll explain to you how you can participate in those polls when we get to them. I'd like to introduce you to our speakers for today, Lauren Davis and Simon Walter, our AVPs of Higher Education Partnerships. And I will go ahead and hand it over to you, Simon, to say hello.
Hello, Simon Walter here. I am in Southern California. I've joined the Six Red Marbles team here to support higher ed institutions in the western half of the US. I bring a lot of experience of working with higher ed universities, colleges in their development of their courses, and excited to be here and talk with you today.
Thanks. And I'm Lauren Davis. I'm also AVP of Higher Education Partnerships here at Six Red Marbles. Like I said, I'm located in New York, on the other side of the U.S. from Simon. And I oversee the eastern side of the U.S. And it's very similar to Simon. I bring a lot of years of expertise and experience in helping universities of various sizes in developing online programs. So I'm so excited to be here. And yeah, I'm going to kick it back to Simon.
Thank you, Lauren. Okay, I thought it would be helpful for those of you unfamiliar or a little bit of familiarity with Six Red Marbles in terms of who we are. We bring 30 years of expertise in program, course, and content development. We started in K-12, and about 12, 15 years ago, we evolved and really started to include and work with a lot more of higher ed institutions. We have a team, a very large, robust, diverse team of 350 members and growing, primarily composed of subject matter experts, instructional designers, program managers, and really what it allows us to do is provide full service program and course development from ideation to creation, as well as scale projects very quickly. A lot of our SMEs and IDs come from higher ed, former educators, current educators, IDs, and they're very familiar with the market, learning trends, and the industry. Our approach is to deliver the best learning experience, to hit our partners' goals, highest quality learning resource, and we're able with that such a large team to do it at scale. And really what drives us in our core is to be able to create custom award-winning content that truly engages. And a quick word about that content. If you could go forward, Tiffany. The main concept, and one thing to always know, is that, as the headline says, it is always your content. A big part and goal of ours is to create a level of trust with our working partners, and through that, and an understanding and establishing that trust, is that faculty leaders are always in control in the direction and the content of their courses. We bring a lot of experience and knowledge and understanding of working with and coming from the higher ed institution, and we can really act as brainstorming and that ideation and work and help faculty and leaders create the best possible content. Please note, we are not an off-the-shelf, one-size-fits-all subscription content library. We are a fee for service. The real main concept is client content ownership. And so really that final deliverable is the school's intellectual property to have. And to give you an idea of where we are in our footprint in higher ed, it has been growing consistently. If you go to the next slide, please, Tiffany. This is a snapshot. We work with all types of schools. This is just a sampling of some of the schools, but you can see that we work with 4-year public-private from small liberal arts colleges up to tier 1 research institutions, 2-year public-private, community colleges, trade schools. We've even worked on with government organizations, nonprofits, corporate. We work with across all disciplines. We've developed programs and courses in public health, business, law, nursing, STEM, teacher certification programs, social work, cybersecurity. I'll stop here for the sake of time. Basically, you name it. We have the team, subject matter experts, instructional designers, and we've worked and created programs and courses in it as well. Now, back to Lauren to go over today's main topic, strategic program development.
Yeah, thank you so much, Simon. So as Simon has noted, we've been doing this for a while in terms of helping institutions, universities, colleges, trade schools think about how do they develop their program. So over the years, we have definitely come up with several best practices, but also why it really matters to think about program planning and to do it in an intentional type of way, because we know that really great programs, they don't pop up overnight. There's actually been a handful of conversations that have to happen along the way, and people have people internally at those institutions have made very careful considerations of their timeline, faculty management, what resources are available, what are the market insights that are driving the development of that program. And then those institutions have also thought about what is the impact that program and its graduates are going to have within that specific community or within that specific industry that they're designing for. So our goal in this webinar is to really outline some of the key considerations that we hope will be helpful for you all when you're thinking about building a new program or even updating an existing program into a new format. That is our goal for this webinar, is to go through those details. And we also have a program development guide that will work very nicely for you all in your internal conversations. So let's go to the next slide, which is, we've done a lot of talking. Now we want to hear from you all. So on the screen, if you can go to slido.com or take a photo of the QR code. We'd love to hear your response to our question, which is, who at your institution has the most influence over adding or updating programs? We'd love to hear, what does that look like for you all? So is it the dean? Is it a chair? Is it a faculty? Is it a provost or a president who's making those decisions? Or if it's someone else, maybe you have an online program committee or a program committee. So let's hear. All right. We're getting some good feedback already. So, okay. Great. Yeah, we have several different institutions represented and participating in this webinar. So it's always fascinating to hear and to see, what that decision-making process look like. Okay.
I love it. I love the equal, not equal, but a lot of disbursement across different roles and
Yeah,
how it works.
absolutely. Great. Okay, so this is good. I think this gives us a really good idea of what the influence looks like at various institutions that are here today. So looks like dean is the dean level, um, leader. Most institutions here are having an influence on updating or adding new programs to a portfolio or you know list of course a list of programs you have to offer. Okay, so let's move into the next slide. All right. So as we've discussed, it's really important when you're thinking about or even starting the steps of developing a new program is really thinking and having those hard questions and hard conversations internally about where is this need to develop a new program coming from? If it's a faculty member or if it's a dean or a president, where is the data or where are the market research sources to support the need to develop that new program? And the reason why we're bringing this up is that it is incredibly expensive to develop a program and then not have the ROI that you expected or not having the enrollments that you expected. Now you're sitting there with a program that is not really bringing in the type of revenue that you had expected. So we don't want that to happen. So some of the questions we have here, we really hope would spark those really great conversations internally about why are you building this? Who is it for? And what is the intended outcome of this program? And like I talked about, your graduates, what is the impact they're going to have? And then once you have those conversations, have those answers to those critical questions, then aligning your internal resources is going to be super important. So, aligning on, the faculty members that will be providing their expertise. Is it in alignment with the industry that you're building that program for? Is it in alignment with, the outcomes or the career goals that, employers are looking for? And are the learning outcomes measurable, and how are they measurable within the program? And are they trackable? Whether the student is in the program and then also when the student has graduated from the program. Okay. So then let's go into some of the best practices where Simon is going to walk us through what we've learned over the past couple of years in helping universities with online program and on-campus program development.
Thank you, Lauren. Just wanted to go over 4 areas of best practices that we've seen, we've observed with working with lots of different programs and lots of different universities and colleges. Number 1 is aligning those resources. And these are the 4 main, most common resources that in terms of working with universities and colleges. First being the SMEs, the subject matter experts, of really getting an understanding of who's going to be creating the content, who are the experts. And even in this stage and aligning that resources, might identify that there are some gaps or some areas in terms of an update and some refinement of it in working with and really identifying those. The second one being the governance committee. Now, this might be one person or a small group of people overseeing at the high level the overall strategy, working internally and even working externally, who's going to be working with the vendors and how is that structure going to be set up. Obviously, there's the third aspect of this, the key person that's going to be looking in the final approval, excuse me, decision process for both the academic and the program decisions. And the fourth group is really that financial aspect, and the financial group establishing budgets and working it together. So really making sure that you've aligned those resources and really what the overall underlying theme is planned strategically. So all resources are aware of the project goals, timelines, their role, their impact, and that confirmed commitment. So you're going to be able to, as the project is developed and moving forward, hit the outcomes and hit the timelines to make sure it hits the overall deliverable date for it. Second best practice that we look at and we found very, very helpful, if you could go forward, Tiffany, is making sure you're establishing the key competencies you see here, defining the skill, the learning experience, and that assessment. And really, in this regard, on defining the skill, it's not just what the learners need to know, but what they need to be able to do. And thinking in terms of actions and outcomes, that might look, for some examples, it might be developing a plan. If it's analyzing data and coming with, a report of that analysis, and then leading a team, if it's leadership program, that aspect. In terms of the learning experience, the one word that really jumps out for me, and in terms of a Six Red Marbles aspect, is active, and really making sure that is engaging, impactful. This might look like case studies, simulations, labs, role playing, leadership training, really dependent on terms of what the program is. And lastly, that aligning assessment to the performance, make sure that there's that measurable outcome of the skill application. That might look like, again, capstone projects, reports, scenarios, peer feedback, and an underlying theme, and making sure of these competencies is touching back on what some of that research and market research was. Is the program having the graduates fit what the market is saying in terms of that skill development? You want to really make sure, and just to really reiterate what Lauren talked about earlier, that those are in really strong alignment, and it's built with that perspective, and it's built with that outcome that is going to match for the strongest performance in terms of, once program completion, that they are well suited for job market and in their field. Third one, if you could go forward, Tiffany, is the structuring of the curriculum. Just so you know, this is a snapshot actually of the guide that you'll be available to download afterwards. And really that three-step model, the scaffolding approach to build confidence and competence over time. As you can see, that introduction to new concepts, the reinforcements for deeper understanding, and then the proficiency for independent mastery, and making sure that that's built into that progression over time. And lastly, if you could go forward one, regarding faculty and instructional support. So making sure the collaboration between those three groups, faculty, subject matter experts, instructional designers, that they're all aligned with the same outcomes and goals. There's clear expectations and shared ownership. Without that, we have seen some program design fall a little bit flat. So making sure that that teamwork and that collaboration is strong. Tech-wise, obviously, this is going to be a big component of this. LMS training and any sort of course setup, and really thinking in the lens of a strong first impression with that student experience from day one. And then lastly, the faculty training, ongoing coaching and workshops, make sure that ensuring that the instructors are skilled, effective, comfortable in online teaching. This is very, very different from an in-person classroom setting, and making sure that faculty are continuing their skills as well with this. And you see at the bottom of the note about the academic standards guide, this is really in that aspect of making sure that there's a consistency in the program across all courses. So that, think about it this way, in a typical educational institution, in the physical classroom campus experience, most classrooms are set up the same. And think of that from an online. Where do they go? What to expect? Is there consistent layout, consistent imagery, consistent iconography, so that there is that theme and then that feel, regardless of the course, the program, there's that similarity and that flow towards it. Now we're going to go to our next interactive questionnaire for you. So this one, and again, you can scan the QR code. I think Tiffany is going to throw the link in the chat. Go to slido.com, enter 3774291, and we'd love for you to answer the question. Do you have a defined process for creating and updating academic programs? Thank you for the first respondent in which there was no defined process, no formal process. Oh,
And
now look, an
actually,
equal split.
I was going to say sometimes that is, I like to some of the university clients we speak with, yeah, they don't have a process when it comes to updating or developing an academic program. So you're not alone. And for those that do have somewhat of a defined process, you're that's great that you started the journey of identifying how to build a program. Great. All right. Looks like we do have a highly organized. This is great. All right. Um, so let's go ahead and move forward because I want to make sure we have enough time to address questions too. But we have a few more things we want to talk about in program development. Simon had touched a little bit upon the learning experience, and here at Six Red Marbles, we really want to make sure that all of the courses and the content and the program that we're developing in collaboration with our university clients really are thinking about the student experience, really thinking about what are the components like live sessions or discussion forums and collaboration that can really help students feel engaged and feel a part of the learning experience and that it's meaningful for them. So that is one key aspect of the learning experience, but also, what are engaging elements that you can incorporate. So whether it's gamification or adaptive learning or interactives or case studies that can be incorporated in the content so that students aren't just reading text off of a page. They're actually involved and engaged in the learning. And then we also have many conversations with our university clients about, are you thinking about the type of assessments that are in that course or in those programs? And does it make sense for that type of academic area? So, sometimes uh, multiple choice questions it works for a certain type of learning style and certain type of academic area, whereas it may not work for another academic subject. So making sure that there are the appropriate assessments incorporated and they're competency based is an important factor to consider. And then we want to make sure that students are set up for success. And to do that is making sure that your academic policies and standards are clearly defined and understood by your students, as well as that there's a feedback system in which students can get insights on their learning and the progression of what they've learned throughout the course, whether it's faculty feedback, student or peer-based feedback. And so those are the various components that we are always encouraging our faculty and university clients to consider when building new online programs. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so when we are working with a university client, we have noticed that there are 4 distinct aspects to building out and or rolling out a new program. And those 4 phases or distinct parts of the process are planning. So what we've already talked about before, making sure you have all the resources and your ducks in a row before you start any sort of design or development of a course or a program or of the program. So making sure that the content that you're designing is accessible and it's interactive and engaging, just like I talked about with the learning experience in the slide before. And then you want to make sure, and we always encourage this, to build in some sort of training phase for your faculty. In my experience, I highly recommend having about a month or probably about a month before the semester starts or before the program or the courses go live, where you're walking your faculty through the courses that have been built, making sure that they know where all the components are in the course, how the LMS is configured, as well. And yeah, I was going to say, as well as understanding all the different tech components. So if you have any sort of tech plugins into your course, making sure that faculty know how to use that, and also knowing where they can go for additional support. And last but not least, making sure that the courses are QA'd and ready to go. There's nothing worse than having, courses go live and then within the first 24 hours or within the first couple of days of that course going live, you're getting feedback of like links don't work, or, students can't upload their responses in discussion forums. So making sure that the course has been QA'd, it's accessible, all the links work, all the tech plugins work is super important. And doing that before any course goes live is a strong recommendation we have. Okay, so let's talk about in the program development guide that you're going to get at the end of this webinar, and we keep talking about, we really are excited about this, guide, because in the guide there is a worksheet, and it's an evaluation worksheet that has a couple of what we think are critical questions and evaluative components for you and your team to look at, either an existing program that you want to put online, or an existing program that you want to update, or a new program that you want to develop. It walks you through, the curriculum and course design, as well as, how are students engaged and supported in the program, and how are faculty set up, and are they ready for this, to teach in the program. And based off of all of that, based off all of that feedback in the worksheet, it should be able to give you a good understanding of where are some gaps, or where are some opportunities in which further conversation and discussion can happen to strengthen your program development or your program. Okay. So I think we have a few more areas to cover. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah. So we certainly have experienced a couple of different challenges and opportunities to help universities make sure that what they're designing and the program that they're designing is going to be one that attracts the type of students that they want, and that students are happy and engaged in that program. So to avoid some of those challenges, we have identified some of the key areas or key challenges. So having unclear outcomes. So whether your internal team aren't clear about what the goals of the metrics for the program, that can hinder the success of the program, as well as ignoring market demand. So building something that maybe the market isn't ready for, or maybe your learner profile is not really looking for. So you can avoid that by making sure that you are utilizing strong market data to inform the type of program you're developing, as well as making sure that faculty are aligned, making sure that faculty understand what are the expectations of this program and their involvement in the program development. We have found far too many times that, unfortunately, sometimes there is misalignment with faculty and their understanding of what the expectations are of their work in the development process of the program, and also engagement in the program once it's launched. So we don't want that to happen to you all. And then the last thing, or the last challenge, is having weak engagement strategies. So this could show up in a way that students aren't as active or invested in the content, and so maybe maybe your retention is taking a hit, and students aren't staying in the program. So we highly recommend thinking about that learning experience and building community within your program to keep students engaged. Okay. And let's go on to the next slide. All right. So we want to hear your opinion and your experience. How long does it typically take your institution to develop a new program from idea to launch? I'm always fascinated to know how long it
I'm
takes
very
from,
curious to see what
yeah,
results are on this one as
yeah,
well. It's slido.com again at 3774-291. And I think that might be in the chat as well.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't want to say my experience yet because that might be, I don't want to give it away, but it's good to see, it's good to see some of it being represented. Yeah. Building a program is a labor of love for sure. And it is an investment of time and people and money. So, okay. All right. So it looks like 6 to 12 months. That is, oh, no, someone added
Oh, at the last
their
minute.
response. Wow, last minute. Okay, 12 to 18 months. All right. Um, I was gonna say in my experience, and Simon, I don't know what your response would be, but in my experience, 6 to 12 months, it's generally around if you're including marketing and enrollment into the development of a program, it's anywhere from 9 to 12 months it takes to build out and roll out a new program. So,
It's really
all right.
interesting. Just shy of 50%, 12 to 18 months. When I think I
Yeah.
think that shows a very strategic, thought, process for it. So thank you for the responses to that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's yeah, so just a quick quick update. Actually, Simon, can you take this? My dogs want to join in the conversation.
Sure. A few things available. We've mentioned a few times, and the program development guide is there for you to download. We'll be getting that out as a follow-up for all this. We'd love for you to apply some of this framework in your next planning and your program planning. And we'd love to hear back, what you had heard and experienced. Should you need any support, feel free to reach out to us. You have two emails. Sorry, you have an email there and a link as well. Of course, you're probably going to remember Lauren Davis and reach out to her. You might remember me. Feel free to reach out to any of us. We'd love to hear any sort of feedback you had and your experiences with it, and if there's any opportunities to support for it as well. Lastly, and I'm surprised, Lauren, just so that you know, and I'm glad, while your dog might have been making some noises, my cats have not shown up on screen. This is
Yeah, I'm
probably my number
surprised.
one concern, besides my
Absolutely.
Wi-Fi. Lastly, and thank you for those that submitted some questions in advance. I haven't checked to see if there's any in the Q&A. If you do have any based on anything that we touched upon, please drop it in the Q&A. Tiffany, I believe you had some questions that were submitted in advance that we can now go over.
Sure, and you're welcome to drop any questions in the chat or the Q&A, whichever box is easier for you to get to. So we did have a couple questions in advance. Those included one around credit and non-credit program development. If either of you would like to speak to what differs maybe in the process when you're considering a non-credit program versus a credit program in any kind of context, or what's the same, that sort of thing. We'll
Yeah.
start with that one.
Yeah, sure. I can take that one. So, generally, a non-credit, a non-credit program versus a credit program from a instructional design perspective is generally going to take you the same amount of time to build. Um, oh, okay. So it's generally going to take the same amount of time to build, whether a non-credit versus a credit program. Where the variance comes in is sometimes in how long you're looking to recruit those students for, or how much money you're looking to allocate from a marketing perspective. I know we're really just focused on instructional design here. So from an instructional design perspective, a non-credit is going to be the same build process, and I would say generally timeline as a credit bearing. So I would say the key thing to consider when you are thinking about offering non-credit programming is what existing content you already have that you could repurpose, or are there SMEs within your university system that would be, you know, up for the challenge of building a non-credit program, as well as making sure that they're of the understanding, or there's understanding that they non-credit type of student, or a student that would be taking a non-credit program, uh, mm, would probably have a different learning profile than that of a credit bearing. So not always the case, but in general.
Okay, and
Next
then the
question.
next question we had in advance was, we are shifting our curriculum from quarter to semester and trying to be forward thinking about our program's alignment with future student success. Any tips in this area would be helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. This is really great to hear, because I think a lot of universities and institutions are thinking about the type of learners that are going or continuing their education, whether it's college or graduate school. How can they get the education they need in the shortest amount of time possible? So that way they can, of course, like start, making more money, or they can start their career, whatever it might be. So I think, some considerations, or tips would be, is your faculty and your leadership on board? Do they understand that, this is designing a program for a type of learner profile that maybe you're not used to? Also, just because you're transforming uh, a course from a bigger from a longer time frame into a shorter time frame doesn't mean that the work is less. It actually can be more intense for those students, especially if they're juggling, family and work obligations. So keeping that learner experience in mind is super important. And Simon, I didn't like, I'm not sure if you have a few tips
No,
there.
I think that's
Okay.
very well said, because I think it's looking at, what you talked on earlier about, like the program goals and what's involved, and to make sure we've worked both scenarios, taking a semester and taking it like a 16-week course into 8-week, and we've worked with 8-week up to 16. And it's one aspect is that overall, like the scope of what the program is actually going to be, and making sure that you're not chopping too much out if you're shortening it, and you're not adding too much in, and really making sure it's aligning in terms of what the overall outcomes and goals are. And those are manageable from an instructor standpoint, and then the student learner standpoint, and those outcomes, and how those actually fit into the overall bigger picture for the university and that program.
Yeah, I love that. Yep. Tiffany, are there other questions that we can answer?
We have one more that was submitted in advance. It is, how do institutions successfully consider marketing costs during program development?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I would say that, taking a look at what does it cost to get a student, like just your traditional student, how much does it cost to get that student in the door? And then how much does it cost to get that student to graduate? I think those are two financial touch points that are data points that you need to consider. And then that can inform how much marketing dollars, you can allocate to, to putting into your new program. There are some ways, obviously, like social media marketing is super competitive. There's uh, definitely different avenues in which you can go in marketing your program. But I will say, from a instructional design perspective, it's incredibly important to know or to share what you're designing, like the learning outcomes and the skills and how students are going to learn in the program. Sharing that information with your marketing team is so critical, because you don't want to spend marketing dollars marketing a program that, once students get into the door, it's a different experience. So making sure that potential students know upfront what that learning experience and what they're going to get out of the program is front and center. I would say is something to absolutely consider when you're thinking about marketing dollars for a new program.
I'll just
And
add, well, first with the caveat that I am not on the marketing side and not familiar with it to the level of being an expert on it, but really doing that data research, both internally, what metrics do you have and have you seen in terms of spend, that cost per student? And really to reiterate what Lauren just said about that alignment between marketing and the program itself in terms of, hey, we're marketing it. Our program objectives and goals are, with these aspects, boom, 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 and making sure, again, that's looking at when we talked about best practices and involving in terms of the committee, we've seen in the successful programs and when they've really launched new programs or even revamped current programs that in that committee, there is someone from a marketing or a communications aspect from it so that they understand what they're looking, what the overall goals are and who they're targeting. And then that is just an extension of that. And the program is going to be in a very firm foundation. And the last thing I will say, if there is any more support needed on this, we do have a partner in terms of that's much more of a, involved on the marketing side and more than happy to make connections.
yeah. I would also say we can, and we've done this in the past with several university clients where we can do some, I'll call it academic market research, where if there are some competitors that are in your orbit that you would like to get some, insights on how they're structuring their program, what are their outcomes, how long is the program, what type of learner profile, we can do some of that research and analysis and provide recommendations to you all when you're thinking about developing a new program. Great.
And this is a last call for any questions anyone would like to pose to our experts here today before we say goodbye for the day. I'll give it just a minute, and I'm going to throw up our thank you slide over here so you can have our contact info again, just in case. You'll also receive that in the email that will come once the recording is ready for the webinar, and that's when you'll also receive the guide. Any last questions? Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. I'll throw it back to the presenters to say good farewell and have a lovely day.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. And thank you, Tiffany and Lauren, because Tiffany put together this webinar summer series. This is the fourth and final one. We do have the other three semester prep, faculty engagement, available on our website. There are recordings there and any other guidelines there. But thank you both for leading such a successful webinar series and for including me this time around. We'll see what the attendance level was like comparative. But thank you all for your attending and your questions. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.